Good evening, and thank you for another edition of Make Some Intelligent Noise. I am Rochelle Wilson, advocate and activist for criminal justice and prison reform. I wanted to share with you something about the law. I have quite a bit to share with you tonight, and I really need to get through it quickly. So follow the bouncing ball. Here we go. This is the law that I study. It took me 9 years to learn most of this. Have I read every book from cover to cover? Well, no, I haven't. The good news is it is here as a resource for me so that I can share it with you. I've never hidden the fact from anyone that I am a Moor, M-O-O-R. A Moor is a person who is sovereign to these lands. So, I have here a book that's called Pathway to Freedom. It teaches me how to reverse the fact that I don't have a live certificate of birth, but I do have a birth certificate. A birth certificate makes me a ward of the state. A certificate of live birth means that I am a natural, living human being. And when I step into a courtroom, because there really is no such thing as a courthouse, when I step into a courtroom, I know the law, I know my rights, and I never, ever step on the dock. The dock leads us to our admiralty law. You see, when the slaves or the Africans were brought over right here in Newcastle, Delaware, they were cleaned up, greased down with something called lard, and then taken to the dock, which is where they were sold. They stepped up onto a platform. They were sold. After they were sold, they stepped down off the platform and they went to their new masters or owners. In a courtroom, often there's a gate that swings both ways. When you step through the gate, you have crossed the bar. Many of our attorneys in America must pass the bar exam in order to become American attorneys. Once you cross the bar, if you've never been in a courtroom, you don't know this. If you have been there, then you're aware of it. There is a podium that stands right in the middle. On the left and the right, you have your prosecution and you have your defense. In the middle is a great big podium. That podium is looking directly at the judge. That judge is now has you on the dock. Standing in front of the podium, you are standing on the dock. If the judge says to you, "Miss Wilson, is this you?" Waving a piece of paper, he is asking, am I that piece of paper, the ward of the state? And I will tell him, no, that is not me. I am, and then I will go on and say what I need to say. Mind you, I only have 30 minutes in this show, so I can't tell you everything, but I am hoping and praying that I am wetting your whistle, wetting your thirst for knowledge, that what I'm saying to you, you will go and do something in Moorish law we call qualify it. To qualify something means to prove it and authenticate that it's real. Now, pretty much every judge in America knows that if you say, "Yes, Your Honor, that's me," then you are giving him permission to call you a ward of the state. You're already one if you have a birth certificate. So, I have my admiralty law, that I know how to speak against that so that I'm not a ward of the state and I do not cross the dock. If I ever find myself on the dock, I know how to defend myself. What I have here is the Delaware Appellate Handbook. And maybe you can see just how thick it is. If you ever find yourself in a courtroom, this is the book that you want to know on how to protect yourself if you don't know the other stuff, okay? But hopefully you'll know. But if you don't, you want the Appellate Handbook so that you know how to appeal whatever has been said, whatever the sentence or the verdict is, you know how to appeal it. American jurisprudence, something that is long forgotten. You definitely need to know that. I have here rules of the Supreme Court of the state of Delaware, which is also inclusive of the Delaware Constitution. Very important that you understand, and this is for all of my young people, my teenagers, and the parents of teenagers. You know, I am one of the most assertive drivers on the road, or travelers, that you will ever find. When I get in my vehicle, I'm going where I have to go. But I also understand the importance of being courteous as I drive. Unfortunately, some of our young people have not learned common courtesy on how to behave on the highways and byways. Well, courtesy is one thing, but law is something else. And some of the things that I've seen the young people do, you are setting yourself up for the police to pull you over. So, don't want to get too far, but I'm a teacher, so this is how I teach. To my young people, if the police ever pull you over, you need to understand, hands on wheel, immediately, well, I'm using my phone right now, so I can't show you. Hands on wheel, immediately before the police officer even comes up and walks up to your car. Set your cell phone on record. Put your cell phone up on the dashboard. You are not allowed to record the police. You can't have the camera all up in the police officer's face, because now you're looking for trouble and a whole lot of aggravation that you really don't need. Put your cell phone, your handheld computer, up on top of your dashboard. Before the police ever walk up to the side of your car, your phone's on the dashboard, it's on record, your hands are on the wheel, you roll down the window just about so. No more than just enough so that you can correspond and have a conversation with the officer. You do not need to roll your window all the way down, not even halfway down, just partially. Hands on wheel, cell phone on the dashboard, recording everything, window partially rolled down. The first thing you say, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, officer. What can I do for you? What laws have been broken? You do not ask the officer, why are you pulling me over? Because his answer would be simple. Probable cause. You did this. You turned left when you should have went right. You didn't have your lights on, blah, blah, blah. But if you ask the police officer, good afternoon, officer. What laws have I broken? That is where the conversation will get interesting, and all of that will be recorded. Whatever you do, please, young people, please hear me. Do not become belligerent with the officer. Do not start a fight with the officer. Do not offend him in any way. At all times, you must show that you are polite and respectful, because that's the best way you're going to get yourself out of the situation. However, if the officer asks you to step out of the vehicle, you tell the officer immediately, officer, I feel that my life would be in jeopardy for me to do so. Please call your supervisor. Please contact your supervisor and I will get out of the car. Do not get out of the vehicle until the supervisor has arrived and can tell you again, good evening, supervisor, thank you for being here. What laws have I broken? I'm telling you this because it will protect you and potentially save your life from what could be a very ugly situation. That's for my young people. Although it wouldn't hurt some of the adults to remember this as well and to use this information. As I've stated before, anyone who is serious about law, you're not serious if you don't have one of these. This is the 6th edition Black's Law, and you want to go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anything beyond 6, 7, 8, 9, it's almost like having Kool-Aid that's been nothing but watered down, and all the sugar is gone. There's no sweetness, there's no taste. Okay? You want to have a 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 Black's Law Dictionary. Read it. In closing on the law, I also have here the history of North America, MSIN. These lands, the United States of America, before it was the United States of America, it was North America, MSIN. Know your history. Know and understand that there was a nation, a nationality of human beings who lived upon these lands. They had college universities. They had irrigation systems when other people were still using the bathroom out in the woods doing squats, okay? We had libraries, which were all burned down, and that's another part of history that you'll have to do for yourself. But I assure you, these lands that we are standing on today once belonged to a nation of people called Moors, Moors, kings, queens, governing rulerships. We had a whole government and a system of how we did things. So, know your history. Know the truth. It's the only way that you can walk into a courtroom and defend yourself. And remember this in closing. Every attorney in the state of, in America has to cross the bar, the swinging door, in order to practice law. The only problem with that is, remember this, that attorney is certified by that state in which they practice the law. So if I'm an attorney and I take the state bar in the state of Delaware, it means the state of Delaware has certified me as an attorney. How can I then be an employee of the state? How can I then go and defend someone against the state prosecution who is also an attorney? So what you really have is negotiations between prosecution and defense. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars to have an attorney stand up in a courtroom for you and say whatever it is that they're going to say in front of the judge. What you may not know is that they've already had a backdoor conversation with prosecution, their fellow bar passers. Okay, moving on from the law, that's something to wet your whistle. I hope that that it got you interested, and perhaps you'll do some study on that. Moving forward, the new book, I'm now trying to read this amongst everything else. The New Jim Crow, which is the new economical mass incarceration. You see, when Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, started the war on drugs and mass incarceration began, and it was mostly about brown and black and brown people. It was for us. That's no longer just the case. Now it's about economics. I advise every young person, if you are over the age of 10, please read this book so that you will understand the truth of what's going on in America's prison system today. You need to know that. Mom and dad, come on, help your kids. Help protect them. Help them take over the world, okay? The New Jim Crow. Buy this book. It's worth it. And read it from cover to cover. All right. Still, wanted to bring you up to date briefly. This is a special message out to all of my educators. As I have been appointed to the Department of Education for the Department of Correction by my beloved Governor, John Carney himself, I really want to do a good job because I do like Governor Carney. I mean, you know, say what you want to say about him. He's a man. He's not perfect, but I like the way he rolls. He's a good man. I like it. So anyway, I went to that meeting on Friday. It was a fabulous meeting with Maureen Whelan and quite a few other great people sat at the table. And the information that I can share with you is that for people in white, and this is all across the state of Delaware, if you were in a white uniform, they are now attempting to go through the process and the procedures to get tablets in so that people can do something called distance learning. If you are in a white uniform, you will be allotted the opportunity to get distance learning for trades and things that help you to get a job, to educate you and prepare you to come out. Because if you're in the white uniform, you've only got 2-3 years left and you're coming home. So that's really good news for everybody who's in the white uniform. However, for the brothers and sisters incarcerated that are in non-white uniforms, you're in any other color but white, you are considered a risk, okay? For whatever reason you are. And being a risk means folks are kind of, it's difficult to come into a high-risk situation and try to teach people that may not be interested in learning, or they may rather hurt you, or they want to start a riot, or all kinds of different reasons. Whatever the reason is, it's very difficult to get teachers, qualified teachers, to come in and teach high-risk folks. So, if you are in any color, I always say orange because that's the only color that pops into my mind. I don't know what color they're wearing at the women's prison. I don't know what color they wear over at Howard Young or at SCI. It might be green over at SCI. I really don't know. I apologize for my ignorance. But what I can say is if you are in a non-white uniform, you are considered high risk. The best they can do at this time, and they are working on that procedure and the process, to have 4 hours of educational programming put onto the televisions. So those people will only be able to watch 4 hours of educational programming, whether it's in welding or shop or mechanics or body shop or massage therapy or whatever programs they can, even National Geographic. I mean, that's better than just letting people rot away. If you're in non-white uniforms, you just sit in a cage for 23 hours a day, and that's doing nothing more than allowing people to rot, just basically rotting their whole lives away. And again, I'm not talking to the people who like that. There are people out there who really think that that's a great thing for people to sit in cages and rot their lives away. You think they deserve it. Well, that's your choice. I'll pray for you. They're human beings. They need help. They need rehabilitation. So, for right now, because they're high risk, that's the best that the Department of Education can do. But I'm sending out a message to all of my qualified teachers, which includes myself. They are interested in hiring. We need almost 100 teachers in order to implement these programs into the prison. You have to go on to the website for the Department of Education, and you want to apply specifically to work in the prison. Specifically apply to work in the prison. We need math, English, science, social studies, civics, government, whatever you teach, please apply. I'm sorry, it's a little hot and Mama's doing her thing. So now, to the part that is most important for today, which I didn't get a chance to tell you. There's this little thing, I'm backtracking. It's called acceptance for value. When you get a ticket, the policeman or somebody gives you a ticket for running a red light or whatever, well, there are several ways you can handle it. But I challenge my young people to go out and find out, do a Google. What is acceptance for value? That is a powerful, powerful piece when you're talking about the law. Acceptance for value, A4V. I had to get that in. My crew is telling me that we are on a certain amount of time. So now I want to bring you up to date to what I've been talking about all day. For those of you who have been following my posts, you saw me go live. I was at the Hotel DuPont. Today was the governor's convention, and I thought that Governor Carney would be there and I would have an opportunity to discuss with him the threatening heat conditions that are now taking place inside of the Department of Corrections. Actually, it was much to my surprise and to my pleasure to find that Governor Carney was he went to the convention, but he left there to go into the neighborhoods to help neighborhoods clean up. When they told me that my governor was out cleaning up neighborhoods, you say what you want to say about him. I don't know of a governor, since I've been aware of politics, I have never known of a governor to roll up his sleeves, put on a pair of jeans and sneakers, and go out to some of the most interesting neighborhoods and clean them up. Are you serious? So yeah, kudos to Governor Carney. Thumbs up from me. I'm one of your biggest supporters. But when you do wrong, I'm going to let folks know that too. Fair is fair. I'm a journalist. I got to keep it real. So anyway, he wasn't available for me to speak to. So I spoke with the next best person. I spoke with Romaine Alexander. Romaine Alexander is an advisor, and he's really good at his job. So he and I had a nice, I'd say maybe 15 to 20-minute conversation. I explained to him what was going on with the threatening heat conditions, that there are people in there with asthma, there are elders, and if you don't have a job, you are not allowed to come out of the plumber center and just walk around and get some fresh air. You have to be on a job search or actually be employed in order for them to let you out. Otherwise, you are stuck in what I'll call a dungeon. I'm sure there's a better name for it. We'll call it the housing units, okay? So you're in the housing units, the dungeon, all day. Now, my cell phone told me today it was 90 degrees. Add 10 to that, you make it 100 degrees down in the housing units of the Plumber Center. And I have gotten information coming into me from other people who have told me that at James T. Vaughn Correctional Center on the compound, there's no fans, no air condition, and it's approximately 125 degrees. That's hot, folks. How would you feel if you were stuck in some place at 125 degrees, no fans blowing, no air, and you can't get out and leave? Okay? Those are inhumane conditions. As I stated to you before, Title 11, 6531 states very clearly, lawfully, it is a mandate. Whenever you see the word shall, it's not maybe or perhaps or when you get around to it. Oh no, baby. When you see the word shall in the law, it means it is mandatory. It must be done. And it says in the language, it shall be, people shall be treated humanely. That's a mandatory. We can't get away from that. So if there's a person who is not following those rules and those laws, then we have to talk to the commissioner for the state of Delaware, which brings me to my next point. I also spoke with Matt from the Attorney General's office. If I'm not mistaken, I think the name is Marshall. It's Marshall, Matt Marshall. Okay. My crew is telling me how much time I have. So if you see me look away, it's because I'm paying attention to what they're saying. So I believe his name is Matt Marshall. I spoke with him today from the Attorney General's office. He said that he was going to talk with AJ, who works directly with Kathy Jennings, and inform them of what's going on. Romaine Alexander made a few phone calls, wanted to check some stuff out. They told him that they were unaware of what was going on. I suggested to Mr. Alexander, don't let them pull your leg, because if the people who are supporting me, if you have done what you say that you have done, I have been reported that at least 50 people have made a phone call and left a message for the new commissioner, Claire DeMathias, that this is what's happening. So no one can say they didn't know about it. All right? Anyway, Romaine Alexander says that he will get on it again. He's going to find out what he can. Matt Marshall says he's going to see what he can do about the situation, as well as, I don't know if AJ is on board or not, but I do know that that information will be transferred to Kathy Jennings' office. The good news is, I have to tell you, my baby, House Representative Mimi Brown, is on it. She is the first elected official to jump to this situation and stand up for those people incarcerated and suffering through this enormous threatening heat conditions. I just have to give her all praise and kudos because she stepped up to the plate. So she will now join me in this fight to make sure that people are treated, according to Title 11, that they are treated humanely. And I want to bring a friend of mine on board, a very special friend, who can tell us a little bit about the grievance process. Will you join me, Andre?
Yes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a dear friend of mine, my legal advisor. This man carries law books in his head. So I have nothing but love for him. Listen to what he has to say.
It's my understanding that the Commerce Center officials does not afford the residents access to the grievance procedure, which is mandated by law that the residents utilize that process before proceeding to court. So since the ward and those officials is denying the residents that process, that access, then they can proceed directly to the court with a petition, grieving those conditions, which they have a constitutional right according to Article 1, Section 16 of the Delaware State Constitution. So I would humbly suggest that they take that under advisement. They don't have to beg and plead to be treated like a human being when the law guarantees them that. So get over it.
All right, there you go. See, that's why I love him. He walks around with all these books that I have to study. He walks around with them in his head. Like, I'm so glad that God gave him to me. And I also want to take a short moment here before we close out because my crew is telling me to wrap it up. 3 minutes. Okay. If I go a little bit over, then just shoot me. I have to take a moment here to say, God Almighty, by whatever name you choose to call him by, him, her by, you always know when you're on purpose, when you're doing what you're supposed to do. God Almighty will show you that in using other people to make sure that you're on path. I don't have time to tell you how I met Brother Andre. I mean, he's so blazing, I call him boss. Hey, boss. But when God puts people right in your pathway at exactly the moment that you need them, that's a message. But here, let me take it further. Some of you may have heard me and some of you did not hear me, but I know who did hear me when I said I gave up my job as a high school teacher, a very lucrative career, I must add, and I was doing very well. I gave that career up so that I could do this, so that I could go into criminal justice and prison reform. It was my choice, but I don't get those every 2-week paychecks anymore, okay, folks? I'm making it by the grace of grace. And that's okay, because I'm a proud woman. I don't go around asking for handouts, and I don't beg and plead, and I don't tell my personal business to everyone. But somebody heard me. They knew that I'm no longer getting those every 2-week paychecks. And they sent me money, lunch money, gas money, whatever kind of money it is that I could use for whatever I want it for. They sent me money on my Cash App. When that sister did that, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't have permission from her to say her name, but when that sister sent me that money, it came at a moment when I really, really could appreciate it. Now, I don't go around, I don't ask anybody for anything. I don't beg and plead. I don't have my hands out. I haven't put anything on the donation button. I don't do that. I don't need to do that. If somebody wants to bless me, then Almighty God will make sure that I am blessed. But right after that sister sent me an offering of love, I mean, it was so beautiful, I don't even want to spend it, but unfortunately I had to. Right after she sent me something, 2 more people sent me a love offering, which really just tells me it's not about the money as much as I appreciate it, and God knows I need it, and I'm so humbly thankful. I can honestly tell you, it showed me that I am on purpose, that I am doing the work that Almighty God, Allah, has sent me here to do, has created for me to do. Yes, am I heartbroken that it had to be my son to get in jail for me to do any of this, because I promise you, if Justin hadn't gone to jail, I wouldn't be in any of this. But because he is, I am now here doing what I do. And I give all credit to Justin. But I can say this to you in conclusion, because I'm getting the wraparound, like close it down. I am so thankful to that sister, and I pray she is watching, and to those other 2 people that sent me lunch money, we'll call it, the love offering. Thank you. I appreciate you from the sincerity of my heart. And all you've done is just motivate me to be better. And I promise you, I give you my word that I will get better and better and better as I do. The more and more of this, I will get better and better and better. Stay with me, people. Don't leave me. I need your support. Stand with me. It's the only way I'm going to get anything done. Thank you. I love you. Rochelle Wilson for Make Some Intelligent Noise. Have a great night. Peace and grace.